Oh, look at these two. All right, come on. You're okay?
Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a modern love story with a viral twist. Picture this, a warm July evening in New York, the stadium buzzing with energy. Fans munch on nachos, slurp sodas, and cheer for their team. Suddenly, the Jumbotron flickers and zooms in on a couple sitting just a little too close. A man in a navy polo, arm casually draped, leans into a woman with striking red hair. Their eyes dart around. Then a whisper, a smirk, a lean in, and yep, there it is, a quick kiss. The crowd cheers. But back at home, the internet freezes the frame and hits record. You probably won't survive this if you work in HR or worse, if your CEO does. Because that man, Andy Byron, CEO of Astronomer, a billion-dollar tech firm, and the woman, Kristin Cabot, head of HR. Neither of their spouses, we should note. Within hours, someone posts the clip on TikTok. By morning, it's viral. Memes erupt. Twitter threads dissect posture. Someone even matches Kristin's earrings to a designer brand. It's part real-life soap opera, part workplace horror story, all unfolding live. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. It's always cool to see who's watching from where. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The fallout began instantly. As the clip spread, internet sleuths were already matching names to faces. "Isn't that Andy Byron from Astronomer?" one Redditor posted, with a blurry screenshot of a staff page. Another chimed in, "That's definitely Kristin Cabot. She spoke at that tech HR summit last year." Like wildfire, the story caught. The footage showed Andy hugging Kristin with the kind of intimacy reserved for either a longtime partner or someone dangerously off limits. It wasn't just the kiss, it was the way their fingers lingered. The shared look of panic when they realized the camera was on them. Andy tried to pull away, slowly. Kristin laughed, then quickly covered her mouth. Classic guilty reaction? Historians still argue whether that laugh was pure nerves or playful mischief. But either way, the crowd saw it. The world saw it. By the next morning, Andy's name was trending. Kristin's LinkedIn views skyrocketed. And the Astronomer PR inbox was a blazing mess of media inquiries, press requests, and one very passive-aggressive email from a board member flagged urgent. At that moment, two people's private moment became a global talking point. And even worse, for Andy, his carefully built image of leadership, discipline, and family man charm began to splinter under the glow of stadium lights. Andy Byron wasn't always a headline. Before the kiss cam frenzy, he was just another tech bro with good hair and better timing. Astronomer, his New York-based data analytics company, was his baby. Born in a dusty co-working space with nothing but cold brew and a dream. By 2022, it had offices in 3 countries and contracts with names too big to say without NDAs. Andy's story was classic tech gospel. Dropout, hoodie, grind set. Except he hadn't dropped out. He had an MBA from Cornell and once wore cufflinks shaped like tiny satellites. People liked Andy. He was charming, in that approachable but not too funny way. The kind of CEO who remembered interns' names but still made them wait outside meetings. At conferences, he worked the room with practiced ease, half handshake, half wink. His founder's journey keynote was always in demand, especially the part where he compared scaling a company to climbing Kilimanjaro without socks. Historians still argue whether he actually climbed it or just emotionally did. Internally, though, Andy wasn't exactly a saint. He had favorites. His calendar was full of 1.1s with high-potential talent, many of whom shared a suspicious love for spin class and startup hoodies. Still, he delivered results. Revenue soared. Employees got bonuses. The board was happy, and happy boards ask fewer questions. Andy's wife, Lindsay, was often in the background of his success. A quiet philanthropist with a book club and 2 labradoodles. She'd show up for big launch events, smiling in every photo, dressed in J.Crew and patience. Most people assumed their marriage was rock solid. After all, he mentioned her in nearly every speech. None of this would be possible without my incredible wife, he'd say, hand over heart. Turns out, some things are too rehearsed. By the time the kiss cam footage went viral, Andy was at the height of his power. Just 6 months prior, Astronomer had closed its Series E funding round, $110 million in fresh capital. He was giving interviews on digital ethics. He'd even turned down a profile in Forbes, calling it too self-congratulatory. Irony much? Behind that polished image, though, cracks were forming. Employees had noticed Andy spending more time on the 10th floor, HR's floor. His assistant once joked that he should just move his desk there. Kristin Cabot had become a fixture in his daily calendar. Compliance strategy meetings, internal culture reviews. One person even spotted them leaving the office together after hours, both laughing, both holding bubble tea. It wasn't definitive, but it was definitely suspicious. Still, in the tech world, rumors are like vaporware. They exist. They swirl. But unless they crash the server, no one really reacts. Until now, Kristin Cabot wasn't your typical HR head. She didn't wear gray pencil skirts or deliver circle of trust PowerPoints. She was sharp, stunning, and terrifying in the way only someone who knows all the exit packages can be. Harvard grad, Yale law dropout, with a decade of experience cleaning up executive messes, before allegedly making one herself. Kristin joined Astronomer 3 years before the incident, TM. She came from a fintech startup where she'd overseen a major culture reboot following an executive scandal involving a hot tub and 3 employees. So yes, she had experience. She was known for her cool composure, strategic vision, and the ability to explain sensitive policy while sipping an iced matcha like she was on a brunch date. People liked her, not in a warm, fuzzy way, but in the please don't fire me way. She was professional to the point of intimidating. Her Slack messages had no emojis. Her calendar was booked 6 weeks in advance. She wore a different pair of statement earrings every day but never repeated shoes in the same month. That was her kind of flex. Rumors about Kristin's personal life were rare. She lived alone, never posted on social media, and claimed she didn't even own a television. "I read," she said once when someone asked what shows she was into. Of course she did. She was that type of powerful. The thing is, she and Andy had chemistry. People noticed it long before the kiss. The kind of banter that was just a little too natural. They had private coffee meetings in the office cafe. She laughed at his bad puns. He once brushed something off her shoulder mid-meeting like they were in a rom-com. One employee claimed they spotted Andy gently adjusting her blazer collar before a photo op. Historians still argue whether that moment was innocent or prelude. Still, most dismissed it. Kristin had a reputation for professionalism, and Andy, well, he was supposed to be untouchable. But hindsight? Oh, hindsight has 4K clarity. And that night at the stadium, it reframed everything. Kristin had always said HR should model integrity. She gave a whole seminar on workplace boundaries 2 months before the kiss cam. Some employees even remembered her saying, "Your reputation is your insurance policy. Protect it like your passwords." Oh, the irony. So when the camera caught her and Andy sharing that not-so-colleague moment, his arm tucked behind her back, her fingers curling over his, it wasn't just the internet that lit up. It was every employee, every ex-coworker, every rival startup founder who had ever side-eyed Astronomer's squeaky clean image. She didn't blink on camera, by the way. Kristin. She smirked. For just a second. A half smile that said, "Yeah, this is happening." And for a company that prided itself on transparency, that smirk may have been the most honest thing they'd ever seen. The footage was only 7 seconds long, but by the next morning it had been slowed down, zoomed in, color-corrected, and overanalyzed like it was the Zapruder film. You could practically hear the collective gasp of a million keyboard warriors as they hit replay. Again and again, the stadium kiss cam had landed on them like fate. They weren't even sitting in the front rows, more like 10 rows up, slightly off-center, just far enough away to maybe claim coincidence. But when the Jumbotron lit up their faces, they both froze. Andy blinked twice. Kristin turned her head. Then she leaned in. He met her halfway. The kiss was quick, but not friendly. It was the kind of kiss you give someone when you think no one's watching. which of course was laughably off the mark. In that moment, everything changed. Within 2 hours, someone had uploaded it to Twitter with the caption, CEO of an astronomer tech caught playing tonsil hockey with someone who deaf isn't his wife. It was retweeted 40,000 times in the first day. TikTok got involved next. A lifestyle influencer duetted the clip and whispered, "That's not even the spicy part, y'all. Wait for the handhold." And yep, freeze frame at second 4 showed Andy's hand resting on Kristin's knee, thumb moving ever so slightly. That's when the comments started pouring in. HR, we need a review immediately. Tell me you're sleeping with your boss without telling me. Dude's about to get deplatformed from his marriage. By the evening, the video had made it to YouTube under the title, Kiss Cam Exposes CEO Affair? Astronomer Scandal Explained. There were breakdowns, reaction vids, even an a cappella remix someone posted on Reddit. It ended with a harmony of "You're Getting Fired" sung like a church choir. Some tried to defend them. Maybe it's innocent? One Reddit user asked. But the timestamps told a different story. The game was on a Tuesday night. Kristin and Andy had both claimed to be in client dinners that evening on their public calendars. Oops. Historians still argue whether the leak was random or planted. Some think a disgruntled employee shared it. Others believe the stadium had no idea who it caught until it blew up. But one thing was clear. Their moment of coziness, under that huge glowing screen, was now property of the internet. And if there's one thing the internet doesn't offer, privacy. Within 24 hours, the kiss became an obsession. Not just for gossip fans, but for body language experts, micro-expression analysts, and YouTube psychologists who suddenly had a lot to say. The video was broken down frame by frame like it was a Cold War surveillance tape. First, the way Andy shifted in his seat. He leaned in as the kiss cam hovered. Not away, not in surprise. His body relaxed, his shoulders dropped, and his smile, tight but warm, looked just a little too familiar. Kristin, for her part, didn't flinch. She smirked. It wasn't a caught-off-guard giggle. It was knowing, calculated even. One TikTok analyst, username Our Lips Don't Lie, claimed you could see pre-kiss eye contact, a textbook sign of attraction. She circled Andy's hand position in red. "This is the clincher," she whispered over the zoomed-in clip. "That thumb rub on her knee? That's intimacy, folks." Meanwhile, Reddit hosted a full-blown investigative thread titled Affair Confirmed, Kiss Cam Clues, Timestamp Edition. One user even noted the slight lipstick transfer visible on Andy's cheek, visible only at 0.25x speed and full brightness. Another posted a wild theory that the kiss wasn't spontaneous, that it was prearranged for thrill. That got 2,100 upvotes in a day. Historians still argue whether Kristin's smirk at the end of the video meant oops or finally. But what everyone could agree on was that this was not just a clumsy public misstep. This was chemistry. This was practiced. There was a rhythm in how they touched and laughed and looked at each other. A rhythm you don't just fake on a random Tuesday. Body language professionals weighed in on morning news shows. One former FBI profiler even claimed Andy exhibited emotional tell patterns consistent with long-term romantic entanglement. Whatever that means, it sounded bad, or really good, depending on your stance on forbidden office romances. Even the way they tried to hide was suspicious. As soon as they noticed the camera, both leaned away, but not sharply. It was a slow, graceful separation, a casual, oh, not a, what have we done panic. Kristin pulled her hair forward like a veil. Andy laughed and looked toward the scoreboard, as if hoping it would offer an escape route. But the crowd had already cheered. The moment had already been tweeted, and somewhere Andy's wife had probably already seen it. This wasn't just body language, this was a full-blown, high-definition digital age unraveling. And the worst part? There were still 25 sections to go. By sunrise, social media had gone full forensic. Twitter was ablaze. TikTok had stitched, remixed, and rescored the kiss with everything from sad violin to careless whisper. Reddit was drawing diagrams. But nothing, and I mean nothing, compared to the internet's favorite sport, digging through the past. Astronomer's company pages were ransacked. Andy's archived tweets, old conference clips, even forgotten Instagram tags from company retreats, all unearthed within hours. A Redditor with too much time and too many monitors found an old holiday party photo. In the background, clear as day, Andy and Kristin playing ping pong together, grinning like teenagers. The caption? The HR CEO Dream Team. Oof. Someone on TikTok made a timeline of their suspicious interactions beginning 6 months earlier. Kristin laughing too hard at one of Andy's bad jokes during a panel. Andy quoted in a blog post saying, "Kristin keeps us grounded," with a winky face emoji. Kristin's Instagram story from a company off-site, featuring a blurry figure in the reflection of her sunglasses, zoomed, analyzed, confirmed Andy's hoodie. Then came the memes. The most popular one, a screen cap of the kiss cam with the caption, "When HR forgets to file the no dating policy." Others followed. Andy's face photoshopped into the office scene where Jim and Pam kiss. Kristin as a Disney villain, dramatically holding an astronomer handbook titled Ethics. A mock press release that read, "Effective immediately, Astronomer will be relocating its headquarters to the nearest broom closet." Historians still argue whether this was the fastest meme cycle meltdown of any modern tech exec. But one thing was certain, no corner of the internet was safe. Even LinkedIn saw blood. One anonymous user posted, "Nothing screams leadership like cheating in 4K, inspiring." The real turning point, though, came with a now-deleted tweet from a former astronomer employee. We always knew Kristin was fire, turns out she's..." That post lit up comment threads with insider stories. Nothing provable. Everything juicy. Claims of late-night meetings, calendar blocks marked private, and Andy once allegedly asking for Kristin's opinion on a very personal rebranding strategy. Speculation swirled faster than damage control could catch it. Astronomers' socials went dead silent. Their last post, a smiling group photo from a Pride event, became a playground for chaos. Comments poured in. "Who took this pic? Kristin? Andy? Both? That guy in the back knows something. Look at his face. Y'all need to kiss some HR policies goodbye." And that right there was the moment everyone realized. This wasn't going away. For 3 full days, Andy Byron said nothing. No tweet, no press release. Not even a cryptic, taking time to reflect Instagram story. Just a total, eerie silence. For a man who'd once live-blogged his colonoscopy prep, the quiet was deafening. His last post? A LinkedIn article titled, "How to Build Trust in Leadership." Published 4 days before the kiss. The irony was so thick, you could pour syrup on it. The comments section, once full of praise, had turned into a bonfire. So, was that before or after the kiss? Leadership tip number 1. Don't kiss HR on camera. This aged like a warm tuna sandwich. Internally, the silence didn't play well either. According to one employee, who definitely had Slack screenshots, the team was told to stay focused and not engage in speculation, which, in startup speak, translates roughly to pretend we didn't just watch our CEO cuddle HR on a jumbotron. The all-hands meeting scheduled for Thursday was suddenly rescheduled. Andy's calendar was mysteriously blocked for personal reflection. People joked he was probably on a yacht called Accountability, sailing far away from consequences. Historians still argue whether Andy's silence was strategic or just panic in slow motion. One PR expert on Twitter said it was a masterclass in what not to do when your face is trending under dumber HR mance. Meanwhile, astronomer employees began playing a grim little game. Every morning, they'd refresh the company directory to see if Kristin's profile was still live. It was. So was Andy's. No change. Just those same headshots, now forever immortalized by internet sleuths who had reverse image searched them into oblivion. What bothered people most wasn't the kiss. It was the nothing that followed it. The absence of leadership. The lack of any explanation or apology. The carefully curated silence of a man who'd built a personal brand on being open and authentic. One brave employee posted in a private Slack group, "So are we just pretending this didn't happen?" No one replied, but the emoji reaction said enough. The tension in the office was unbearable. Every team stand-up felt like a game of don't say kiss. One manager told their group to just keep executing. Another offered mental health days. One junior dev claimed the vending machine ran out of Twix from stress snacking. The machines were restocked. The trust wasn't. Andy, meanwhile, stayed hidden. Rumors placed him in Montauk, or a wellness retreat, or, more hilariously, in HR's private meeting room, binge-watching Scandal. And as the silence stretched into day 4, one thing became crystal clear. The longer he said nothing, the louder the internet spoke for him. While Andy went radio silent, all eyes turned to Kristin Cabot. And let's be honest, being the head of HR during a scandal you might be the cause of, that's Olympic-level irony. Her job, officially, was to protect employees, enforce policies, and mediate uncomfortable situations. Now, she was the uncomfortable situation. Whispers echoed through Slack threads and meeting side chats. Everyone asked the same question. Who investigates HR? When HR is the problem? Kristin didn't vanish immediately. For 2 more days after the kiss cam clip went viral, she kept showing up on Zoom calls. Hair pulled back, neutral blouse, no visible panic. If anything, she looked too calm. Her voice remained steady, her posture perfect. She nodded, took notes, and even led a diversity hiring review meeting like nothing happened. Legend. But employees weren't buying it. Her camera was a little too perfectly angled. Her smiles were tightly clipped, and when someone asked a routine policy question, she blinked 4 times in a row. Classic, I'm hanging on by a thread, Morse code. Probably. Historians still argue whether Kristin was truly unshaken or just channeling full robot mode. Either way, things got weird. An anonymous post appeared on Blind, the tech industry gossip dungeon, claiming that Kristin was reassessing internal investigation protocols, which was a nice way of saying she might be reviewing her own case file. You know what else made things messy? The actual policy she'd written. Kristin was the one who updated Astronomer's internal ethics guidelines last spring, after that product lead got caught sexting someone 2 levels down. The result was a clause about any romantic or physical relationship between individuals with direct evaluative authority. Spoiler alert, that's exactly what existed between her and Andy. In other words, she broke a rule, she wrote. One team created a secret Google Doc where employees added potential violations by timestamp and screenshot. It wasn't just petty. It was professional grade, color-coded, footnoted, complete with a cover page titled Accountability, a Living Document. And then it happened. Kristin's public calendar vanished. The Monday talent strategy session? Canceled. The Thursday legal risk review? Postponed. Her Slack status changed to taking a pause. The whisper was immediate. Personal leave. No announcement, no explanation, just gone. That week, one of the interns reportedly walked past her office and found it empty, except for her favorite mug still on the desk. A matte black number that read, I'd rather be enforcing policy. Oh, the poetry. Her last Slack message, a comment on a DEI post, always listening. Not great timing. The HR department scrambled. An external firm was suddenly hired for compliance transparency. Astronomer employees couldn't stop laughing. You mean to investigate the head of compliance? One muttered. Iconic. With Kristin off the grid and Andy still in CEO ghost mode, the void was filled the only way modern offices know how. Slack drama. It started small. A reaction emoji here, a side-eye gif there. Then someone in marketing accidentally dropped a popcorn emoji under a memo about professional conduct. Harmless? Maybe. But it opened the floodgates. One private channel, WTF happened last week, swelled to over 40 members in a day. People shared rumors, blurred screenshots, theories, even seat maps of the stadium. Theories ranged from, it was just a dare, to, they've been together since Q1. Things got truly spicy when someone leaked a Slack thread from earlier that month, where Andy responded to a wellness initiative proposal from Kristin with, love this, let's chat privately. Okay, that alone wouldn't raise alarms, but the heart emoji at the end? Oh no. Historians still argue whether the emoji was a slip of the thumb or something more. But either way, it became legend. It was screenshotted, enlarged, and then turned into a company-wide inside joke. Somewhere between desperate catharsis and digital mutiny. Then came the fire emoji. Late Thursday night in a general leadership channel, one of the junior engineers posted a meme about workplace fires. Normal stuff. But someone senior, reacted with, instantly people assumed it was a reference to Kristin, or the kiss, or both. The thread exploded with reactions, followed by someone quietly removing the fire emoji, as if that would undo the damage. It did not. And then a truly legendary moment. A well-meaning employee used the HR chat to ask if romantic relationships among leadership needed to be disclosed. Perfectly fair question. But the HR contact, clearly sleep-deprived, replied in the thread, "Konstantin, we advise against relationships that could complicate optics." The response was edited 5 times, but the original version? Oh, it lived on in screenshots. People weren't just whispering anymore. They were archiving. Every message, every like, every emoji. The culture had shifted. Slack, once a productivity tool, had become the company's most toxic reality show. Even the bots weren't safe. The Yakutos channel, normally used for praise, was eerily quiet. Someone joked it should be renamed Oops. Another said, "If I get one more wellness tip while we pretend our CEO didn't just cuddle HR, I'm throwing my standing desk out the window." By Friday, leadership attempted to clamp down. A memo went out titled, "Let's refocus, a message from executive ops." It urged professionalism. It offered anonymous reporting tools. It asked employees to be mindful of tone. But tone was the least of their problems, because when leaders go silent and HR disappears and emoji wars rage across Slack, the only thing louder than gossip is the sound of everyone pretending not to hear it. By Monday morning, Astronomer's leadership team finally realized that Slack reactions and silence weren't going to make the fire go away. It was time for damage control, the corporate kind. You know, where everything is acknowledged, but absolutely nothing is actually explained. Employees received a carefully crafted internal email with the subject line, "A commitment to our culture." Classic. No mention of kisses, no mention of stadiums, just soft, vague language sprinkled with phrases like navigating unexpected attention and reinforcing our shared values. It opened with, "Recent events outside of our organization's core mission have created distraction and discomfort. We want to acknowledge the moment without compromising the privacy of any individuals." Translation: Yes, we saw the video. No, we're not naming names. Yes, we wish this would disappear. The email was signed by the COO. Not Andy, not Kristin. Just the guy usually responsible for printer leases and company offsites. And while his name appeared at the bottom, the whole message read like it had been edited by 17 lawyers and a ghostwriter for a meditation app. Naturally, it didn't help. Slack lit up with eye-roll emojis. Someone posted a parody memo 5 minutes later that read, "As we spiral, please remember to hydrate." Historians still argue whether the memo's real goal was to calm staff or just to buy time while leadership scrambled to figure out what internal compliance review actually meant when HR was out of office and the CEO was somewhere on Earth. Meanwhile, a few brave mid-level managers attempted to echo the memo's language in team meetings. "Let's try to stay focused," they said. "We're professionals." But their forced optimism landed about as well as a paper umbrella in a hurricane. One senior engineer said during their stand-up, "I'd love to circle back to metrics, but I'm still trying to unsee our CEO playing footsie in 4K. Fair. Outside the office, media coverage intensified. Business blogs started dropping headlines like, "So Astronomer's culture orbiting a black hole? Yo's kiss raises ethical red flags in startup world. HR affair? Just a human error?" Pundits began weighing in on workplace boundaries. LinkedIn influencers turned it into content gold. A woman with 80K followers posted a selfie in front of her laptop with the caption, "Reminder, if they can't honor their wife, they probably can't honor your bonus." Even funnier, the original stadium had released a statement. "Our kiss cam is meant to celebrate love, joy, and fandom. We regret any unintended consequences for anyone caught in a moment of unexpected attention." Translation: Don't sue us. But the most chilling part of the week? One sentence buried in that memo from the COO. "We appreciate your discretion and patience as we move through this process." Discretion, patience. 2 things Astronomer employees were officially running out of. The cracks in Andy's marriage started long before the kiss cam caught that split-second scandal, but no one really noticed until after the fact. That's how it always goes, right? The clues are there. You just need the scandal to shine a big, humiliating spotlight on them. It began subtly. A month before the stadium moment, Andy's wife, Lindsay, unfollowed him on Instagram. Quietly. No announcement, no dramatic story. Just a digital snip. His profile was still public, though, so people noticed. And when the kiss video surfaced, internet detectives scrambled to verify. Yep, still unfollowed. Not only that, she had archived every photo of them together. The vacation shots, the charity gala, even their anniversary post from Lake Como. Gone, like she hit the nope button on her entire married life. Historians still argue whether this cleanup began before the kiss cam incident or after someone sent her the clip. People speculated wildly. Was she at the game? Did she find out in real time? Was she the one who filmed it? That one took off, by the way. A TikTok conspiracy suggested Lindsay had shown up, recognized the section, and hit record. The comments? Absolutely unhinged. Wife POV? If she filmed this, she deserves an Oscar and a martini. Justice for Lindsay and her deleted grid. By the following week, Lindsay posted her first update in months. A single image. A sunset over a beach. No people. Just a long caption. Sometimes silence says it all. Sometimes it doesn't. I've learned the difference. It ended with a white heart emoji and 12,000 likes in a day. But the real dagger? A story she shared later that night, a quote slide that read, "Character is what you are in the dark," with the audio track set to Billie Eilish's What Was I Made For. Subtle, not even a little. Andy's personal brand, once built on relatable CEO and family man, was crumbling faster than his marriage. Just last year, he'd spoken at a conference about work-life balance, joking that his wife kept him grounded. One blog even called them tech's most stable power couple. Oops. Internally, Astronomer employees started sharing their own moments with Lindsay. Someone recalled a holiday party where she stood off to the side, sipping wine and barely speaking. Another remembered seeing her leave a gala early, while Andy stayed behind, laughing loudly at something Kristin had said. Still, no one really knew what was going on at home. That's the thing with CEOs. They can smile through a storm. But behind the PR polish, Andy's home life was clearly unraveling. Lindsay's absence from recent events, her step away from public photos. And now, her online voice growing louder with each cryptic post. One employee summed it up perfectly in a private group chat. First the kiss, then the unfollow, now the quote posts. Yeah, she's in scorched earth mode. Some say the real show didn't happen online. It happened behind the glass walls of Astronomer's top floor, where the executive team met in hushed tones and bad lighting. That Monday morning meeting? Legendary. Officially titled Culture Health Plus External Perception. Unofficially, a full-blown panic huddle. The tension was so thick, you could butter toast with it. Andy showed up late, wearing a hoodie instead of his usual blazer. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in days, or possibly hadn't stopped Googling himself. He avoided eye contact, mumbled something about media noise, and took a seat far from where Kristin usually sat. Of course, Kristin wasn't there. Her chair sat empty, but her presence lingered like expensive perfume and unread policy documents. The COO started the meeting, voice tight. "This is a moment for composure," he said, which is CEO speak for don't scream. But by the second slide, brand risk analysis, public narrative escalation. Someone did raise their voice, not screaming exactly, but very loud disagreement. One executive reportedly said, "This is more than a PR glitch. This is ethics. This is governance." Another chimed in, "And it's HR, like literally HR," to which someone muttered, "She is HR." Not helpful. Then came the now infamous intern moment. As the room bickered about whether or not Andy needed to go on record, the glass doors accidentally opened. An intern, arms full of LaCroix, walked in, paused, and realized they'd just entered corporate hell. They backed out in complete silence. A legend was born. Historians still argue whether the intern heard anything actionable. All we know is they never confirmed or denied. Smart. Meanwhile, someone suggested bringing in a third-party ethics consultant. Andy winced. Someone else floated a leave of absence. Andy blinked hard. A long silence followed. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, Andy finally said, "This wasn't premeditated. It got out of hand. It was a moment." A moment, that's what he called it. The CFO let out a quiet, "Huh." The head of communications wrote something down very quickly. Even juicier? One senior leader reportedly asked Andy directly, "Are you in a relationship with Kristin?" Andy didn't answer. He just stared at the water bottle in front of him, twisted the cap slowly, and changed the subject. That meeting ended with no action items. Just strained faces, half-empty notebooks, and a half-hearted, "Let's circle back." Everyone left with more questions than answers. Later that day, someone found Andy sitting alone in the quiet zone, normally reserved for engineers and introverts. He was just staring out the window, headphones in, hoodie up. And across the office, Kristin's chair remained empty, untouched, like a ghost who forgot to log off. Kristin Cabot's official disappearance came not with a bang, but a calendar event removal. One by one, her weekly touch bases, strategy calls, and policy workshops vanished. Her name was still on the org chart, her office untouched, but her presence gone. Midweek, a Slack announcement confirmed it. Kristin Cabot will be taking a brief personal leave to focus on wellness and reflection. We support her during this time and look forward to her return. Translation: we hope this blows over before she hits submit on her resignation. Internally, it triggered instant speculation. Wellness leave had become corporate speak for "please disappear while legal figures things out." Someone created a bingo card in a private chat called HR Gond, filled with squares like yoga retreat, strategic pause, silence is accountability, meditation with lawyers. Most agreed. She wasn't coming back. But the real twist? Her Slack account stayed active. That's right. She didn't disable it. She didn't set herself to away. She left it live, watching, lurking, occasionally reacting. One afternoon, a new hire asked a routine onboarding question in Marmarin Culture Corner. A few minutes later, a single emoji appeared under their message. From Kristin Cabot. It was like spotting a ghost wave from across a haunted Zoom room. People freaked. Did she mean to do that? Was it a mistake or a warning? Historians still argue whether that was passive, ominous, or an accidental thumb swipe. But one thing was clear. Kristin wasn't gone. Not completely. Just hovering in the shadows of Astronomer's digital corridors. Meanwhile, her office became a monument. No one dared enter. A sticky note clung to her monitor. Do not remove. Personal. Someone swore they saw an open folder titled Comms Drafts, Internal PR. Another said they caught a glimpse of a legal pad with Andy's name underlined twice. Theories flourished. The official line was that her leave was voluntary and wellness-focused. But privately, insiders hinted it was more of a containment strategy. With an internal review underway, and lawyers circling like drones over a Wi-Fi hotspot, removing Kristin from the day-to-day was a way to stabilize, or at least pretend to. Still, her absence created a vacuum. HR questions piled up. Policy enforcement froze. Employees tiptoed around sensitive issues, unsure who exactly was in charge. And every day that passed without a clear update only confirmed what everyone suspected. Kristin wasn't on leave. She was being benched. For what exactly? That part remained murky. There were no clear allegations, no public infractions, just a kiss, a camera, a CEO, and an HR head who waved from the digital beyond with one quiet emoji. The document had no title at first, just a link, a private Notion page quietly created by someone in operations, shared with the subject line. Timeline, do not share. Inside, a breadcrumb trail of meetings, Slack messages, calendar invites, and hallway sightings, time-stamped, labeled, cross-referenced. Welcome to the secret office chat log. It began as an innocent effort, someone trying to organize the narrative for legal. But you know how these things go. Once one person starts compiling patterns, everyone wants in. Before long, it ballooned into a 17-tab file that read more like a true crime dossier than a workplace artifact. The juiciest parts were in the informal observations column. That's where things got spicy. One note read, Feb 3, Andy and Kristin both bumped into each other in the parking garage, drove off separately, but within 60 seconds of each other. Just saying. Another, March 10th. Kristin arrived late to strategy sync. Andy laughed and said, can't start without my better half. No one laughed. Very awkward. And the one that made everyone blink. May 5. Private meeting booked from 4 to 6 p.m. Room, wellness nook, title, budget alignment. 2 hours, 0 budget docs. Even better? typos. At one point, Andy had invited Kristin to a one-on-one labeled private check-in, but accidentally typed primate check-in. That became legend. People began referring to their entire affair as Project Primate. It even had a gorilla emoji in the index tab. Historians still argue whether the file was ever meant for upper management. Some say it was leaked to the comms team. Others believe it was quietly printed out and left on a VP's desk, highlighted, tabbed, and partially redacted like an FBI file. It had charts, heat maps, a suspicion index showing spikes in interactions between Andy and Kristin that perfectly lined up with weekend offsites, and calendar blocks marked personal. Someone even pulled Slack logs to analyze emoji frequency. Turns out Andy only used the flame emoji 3 times in company history, all on messages posted by Kristin. And let's not forget the catering clue. In April, they co-hosted a leadership lunch with custom smoothie orders. Kristin asked for almond butter, banana, and oat milk. Andy ordered the exact same thing, down to the brand of protein powder. Coincidence? The file had a bolded note beside it. Too specific. But the biggest moment? A calendar entry from June 22nd. Andy blocked 2 hours under the vague title, Headspace. Kristin's calendar? Identical. Same time, same title, same room. A room that didn't have a window or a camera. The chat log didn't say it outright. It didn't have to. It let the patterns speak. And whether the conclusions were real or just bored employee imagination, one truth remained. They had receipts, and those receipts were being copied, exported, and sent to people with legal degrees and very expensive shoes. On the 5th day after the kiss heard round the internet, Andy Byron finally broke his silence. No press conference, no video apology, just a LinkedIn post. The timing? 7:04 a.m. The caption? Leadership means owning the hard moments. Cue dramatic sigh. The post was one of those overly polished, vaguely remorseful blocks of text that tries to sound humble, but mostly just sounds like it was run through 5 rounds of PR edits and 1 therapist-approved tone check. It read, "Boardroom. Like many of you, I've been reflecting on recent events and the attention they've brought to Astronomer. I believe in accountability, respect, and transparency, and I know I haven't met the standard I expect of myself or my team. This is a personal moment, but I understand that as a leader, my actions have public impact." No mention of Kristin, no mention of the kiss, not even a hint of what actually happened. Just a lot of moment, reflection, and we will move forward. The kicker? We've built something incredible here, and I remain committed to the mission of Astronomer and the incredible team behind it. Not we, Andy, not anymore. The reaction was swift. Comments poured in like caffeine-deprived fury. One said, "This post feels like a TED Talk with zero admission of anything." Another simply replied with a screenshot of the kiss cam, zoomed in on his blushing face. Then came the parodies. One fake post mocked it word for word, replacing every mention of leadership with lip lock. Another person generated a fake AI voiceover of the post, set to elevator music and ending with a wet kiss sound. It got 300,000 views in a day. Historians still argue whether Andy's intent was sincere or just a PR Hail Mary. Some say it was meant to signal control. Others think he was testing the waters, to see if vague language and corporate jargon could somehow dull the impact of live-action infidelity footage. Inside Astronomer, the post did little to calm the storm. One senior employee reportedly muttered, "He said a lot without saying anything. That's talent." Another printed it out and highlighted every phrase that could have applied to a cafeteria spill. There was one curious omission that employees noticed immediately. No apology to staff. No acknowledgement of broken trust. And absolutely no mention of his wife. But the final nail? He left the post comment section open. A bold move, or a sign he'd given up. The top comment by noon had nearly 5,000 likes. Leadership also means not smooching HR in public, just saying. And right beneath it, a reply from a verified HR professional in Los Angeles. "Bold of you to assume this was your hardest moment. Buckle up." If Andy thought his LinkedIn post would smooth things over, he underestimated one powerful truth. The internet has no chill. Especially when you try to leadership speak your way out of a stadium smooch scandal. Within hours, people had dissected every line of his post like it was a lost gospel. Personal moment? One user replied, "Sir, that was a very public moment with stadium nachos nearby." Screenshots of the post made their way to Twitter, because no one calls it X yet, where someone tweeted, "Imagine cheating in front of 20,000 people and then trying to vibe check it with a thought leadership quote." It got 85,000 likes. But the real body blow came from the comment sections. Oh, the comment sections. A wave of former astronomer interns, employees, and maybe even a few fake accounts emerged, each posting vague, pointed digs. Things like, "Not surprised, TBH." There were signs. Some of us saw this coming from the bubble tea order. And then someone dropped a bombshell. We were told not to discuss executive personal matters during our team sync. So here's my discussion. What happens when HR and the CEO redefine synergy? That one got screenshotted and posted to Reddit within minutes. It exploded. Even Forbes picked up the story with the headline, "CEO responds to viral kiss scandal. Internet responds with fire." Meanwhile, employees couldn't stop sharing memes. One particularly brutal one showed Andy's head photoshopped onto Ross from Friends, holding a sign that said, "We were on a break. Room." Internally, people felt insulted. It wasn't just the kiss, it was the lack of honesty. His post sounded like a press release for a product malfunction, not the messy unraveling of a CEO's personal and professional judgment. Historians still argue whether the backlash was fueled more by the scandal or by Andy's bland attempt to spin it. Some say the lack of real apology made things worse. Others point to the subtle smugness of phrases like, "I haven't met the standard I expect of myself," as peak non-apology language. Even more frustrating? There was no mention of Kristin, not even a hint of shared accountability. For a scandal with two people, Andy's post somehow made it all about his reputation, his reflection, his commitment to moving forward. Kristin, for now, remained silent. And that silence? It was louder than anything Andy had said. The team's Slack thread titled "Off Topic" went wild that afternoon. One employee posted, "Imagine being a data analytics company and still thinking no one would analyze your actions." And as the post racked up likes and flame emojis, someone else summed up the entire situation with brutal clarity. You don't get to own the hard moments when you're the one who created them in high definition. Just when everyone thought the story had reached peak chaos, boom. A new twist. One blurry brunch photo, posted by a total stranger, added gasoline to an already flaming timeline. The caption? "Spotted at Buvette NYC. Astronomer CEO not dining alone." The image was grainy, yes, but unmistakable. Andy Byron, Aviators. That same navy hoodie he'd been seen wearing in countless press shots, seated across from a woman. Definitely not Kristin. And definitely not his wife. Immediately, the internet exploded with one shared thought. Wait, is there a third person involved? TikTok lit up. Twitter, fine, X trended with "another astronomer." And Reddit spun up a whole new thread titled, "The Brunch Betrayal. Is Andy just like this?" The woman in the photo wasn't instantly recognizable, which made things worse. Was she a comms director? A recruiter? A friend from back in the day? People zoomed in, studied her rings, tried to reverse image search her sunglasses. Internet sleuths claimed her hair matched a woman seen in the background of an old astronomer off-site photo. Others had juicier theories. One Redditor posted a side-by-side, the brunch woman, and a former startup founder who, once, sat on a panel with Andy and Kristin. The caption? But twist, was Kristin the decoy this whole time? Historians still argue whether the photo was taken that week or earlier in the year. Timestamps were unclear and brunch menus change often, but the point wasn't what Andy was eating. It was the optics. Again. Public. Again. With a woman who was not his wife. Again. Internally, this sent a shockwave through the company. A few team leads tried to brush it off. It could be an old photo. Could be platonic. But astronomer employees were done giving benefit of the doubt. Trust had already left the building, and now it looked like decency might be following it out the door. One exhausted employee muttered, "Does this man only conduct meetings over avocado toast and betrayal?" That afternoon, someone created a bingo card titled CEO Romance Cinematic Universe. One of the squares? Blurry brunch photo emerges. Another? Yet another woman, probably with a law degree. Theories snowballed. Maybe Kristin wasn't the only workplace connection. Maybe this wasn't an isolated incident. Maybe Andy was just playing startup Casanova, using conference lanyards like love letters. And then, the comment that really hit hard, if this is how he leads his personal life, imagine how he leads a company. It was the kind of casual cruelty that social media thrives on, sharp, biting, and impossible to ignore. Because now it wasn't just about a kiss. It was about a pattern. And the truth? Patterns always speak louder than apologies. As memes spread and brunch theories got juicier, something far less memeable began happening behind the scenes. Astronomer's stock dipped. Not a freefall, not a tech crash-level panic, but a very real, very noticeable wobble. Just enough to make investors nervous. Just enough to start a new round of calls that began with, "So, should we talk about the CEO situation?" Astronomer wasn't public yet, but they had big-name backers, some with IPO hopes, others with venture funds to answer to. And those folks don't like uncertainty, especially not the kind involving viral kisses and HR ethics violations. By midweek, analysts were raising eyebrows. One fintech podcast called the situation a governance red flag wrapped in a PR disaster. A few angel investors quietly pulled out of a follow-on funding round. One even tweeted, then deleted. When your data company starts trending for romance instead of revenue, time to reevaluate. Internally, the finance team was very not chill. One source claimed a controller nearly cried during a budget meeting, not over money, but over reputational volatility, which is a fancy way of saying our CEO might tank morale and funding at the same time. Historians still argue whether the dip was purely scandal-driven or just unfortunate timing with a minor market downturn, but the correlation was too strong to ignore. A potential European partner delayed their contract signing. A prominent client asked for a revised leadership org chart before renewing. And the worst blow? An upcoming industry award for best mid-sized tech culture was quietly pulled. No explanation. Just gone from the shortlist. Poof. People noticed. Andy, of course, made no comment. Not publicly, not internally. He didn't show up for the weekly exec call. His avatar blinked on for 2 seconds, then disappeared. His assistant said he was focused on strategic long-term initiatives, which now sounded suspiciously like Googling crisis consultants. Meanwhile, Kristin's Slack account still hovered. No new activity, just a presence, faint, digital, and haunting, like someone still listening. And then came the morale spreadsheet. A mid-level manager created a pulse check doc to measure team sentiment. It was meant to be private. Of course it leaked. The anonymous comments? Brutal. Tired of building a company around people who keep building drama instead. Do I believe in the product? Yes. Do I believe in leadership? No. This is starting to feel like a reality show without commercial breaks. The final section had a graph. Morale over time. It dropped fast, right around the kiss cam date. The caption? Funny how trust falls faster than stock. It became an office-wide saying, because as the numbers dipped and clients hesitated and employees hit refresh on LinkedIn job posts, it was clear. The scandal had stopped being funny. Now it was just expensive. By the third week, Astronomer's board finally blinked. Until now, they'd stayed comfortably silent, floating above the chaos like a group of dads pretending the house isn't on fire because it's not technically their turn to cook dinner. But with investor nerves twitching, the press circling, and employee morale sinking faster than a VPN connection in a thunderstorm, they couldn't ignore it any longer. A calendar invite went out to all board members under the vague title, The Urgent Reputation and Risk Discussion, which is code for, let's talk about Andy without getting sued. The meeting took place over Zoom, private, no recording, no assistance, just high-powered voices, stiff faces, and the shared knowledge that their CEO had become a headline, a meme, and a stock liability, all before his second espresso. According to someone with a friend of a friend in the room, the meeting was tense. One board member opened bluntly, "We're not managing a company anymore. We're managing a PR crisis with a product attached." Someone else asked if there was concrete evidence of policy breach. A lawyer on the call replied with a dry, "Dozens of pieces, most with timestamps, some with lipstick." Then came the email leak. Just hours after that Zoom call ended, an internal email surfaced. one not meant for public consumption. It was from a board advisor to a private equity rep. Subject line, Re-contingency plan, executive realignment. The phrase, executive realignment, sent the entire company into a frenzy. Slack lit up. Was Andy out? Was Kristin coming back? Was there a third exec no one had ever heard of waiting in the wings, sharpening their leadership deck? Historians still argue whether the leak was intentional, meant to pressure Andy into stepping down gracefully, or just a mistake by someone who forgot reply-all etiquette. The email itself wasn't explosive, but it was clear. The board was weighing exit scenarios. Legal, reputational, financial. They wanted minimal disruption, maximum narrative control. Basically, the opposite of everything that had happened so far. Inside Astronomer, the whispers got louder. The phrase reputation risk became a joke. People started ending emails with, best will now name a no known reputation risk. One engineer renamed their Wi-Fi hotspot, Kiscam Capital. And yet Andy was still CEO. He hadn't resigned. He hadn't been forced out. He hadn't even updated his LinkedIn bio. Still proudly, building at the edge of data, which, given the circumstances, felt a little too on the nose. But the board's sudden movement changed things. They were circling now, watching, drafting things. The next move wouldn't be public. It would be strategic, because when boards finally get involved, someone always ends up under the bus. Kristin Cabot didn't exactly return so much as she ghost-floated back in, digitally. One Monday morning, like nothing had happened, her Slack status flipped from taking a pause to the neutral gray of active. No announcement, no welcome back message, just she was online again. Her profile picture remained the same, head tilted, sharp blazer, subtle smirk, but now it carried new meaning. To employees, it felt like a horror movie poster. Everyone noticed. Everyone watched. And yet, Kristin didn't speak. Not publicly. Not even to her team. No Zoom meetings. No company-wide drop-ins. Not even a Slack emoji reaction. Just the quiet hum of her presence in channels where she hadn't been seen in weeks. At 3:12 p.m. that day, she joined one thread in Horse People Ops, leaving a comment on a hiring pipeline doc. Let's proceed with step 2. Professional. Cold. Perfectly unremarkable. Except for the fact that it was the only thing she said for the next 72 hours. Still, it was enough to reignite the fire. Theories bloomed like office plants after a long weekend. Was she back on probation? Was this part of a legal negotiation? Had she agreed to keep quiet in exchange for staying employed? Historians still argue whether her digital return was voluntary or orchestrated by lawyers trying to control the optics. But one thing was clear. Kristin wasn't gone, and her silence, paradoxically, was the loudest thing in the office. Employees began screenshotting every move, every Slack ping, every document comment. One person noted the exact timestamps between her messages and Andy's calendar activity. They're still in sync, they whispered, even now. Meanwhile, Zoom meetings got weird. Kristin's name would appear in the attendee list, mic muted, camera off. Just a black square. Watching. Someone joked she was like a haunted Roomba. Quiet, hovering, possibly judging. At a Thursday town hall, a department head nervously addressed her in passing. As Kristin is rejoining us, digitally, we're excited for her guidance on next quarter's growth strategy. No response. Just that same black square. The moment passed like a cold breeze through a window someone forgot to close. And as much as people claimed they didn't care, she's not my boss. It's above my pay grade. Just here to code and collect my check. They were all watching her, closely. Kristin didn't smile. She didn't blink. She didn't crack. She logged in. She typed. She left. And in a world desperate for answers, that was somehow more terrifying than any confession. Because sometimes the scariest thing is a comeback that says absolutely nothing. When Andy Byron, Andy's wife, finally broke her silence, it wasn't with a tell-all interview or some teary-eyed podcast guest spot. Nope. It was an Instagram post. Elegant, ice-cold, surgical. The image? A black and white close-up of her hand resting on a hardcover book. No ring. Caption? And sometimes the truth doesn't scream. It just stops showing up. Soho NYC, 2:44 p.m. Tens of thousands of likes in under an hour. Comments, a flood, mostly strangers cheering her on. a few blue checks dropping heart emojis. Someone simply wrote, "Quit power, loud excuses." It didn't take long before people started analyzing everything. The missing ring, the timestamp, the location tag. Was she at a lawyer's office? A friend's loft? A book club? Twitter lit up with a new hashtag. Lindsay knew. But it didn't stop there. That night, Lindsay posted an Instagram story. Just a soft piano track playing over a photo of a wine glass and a candle. Text overlay. Those pieces expensive, worth every penny. Then came the line that hit like a truckload of spreadsheets. Grateful for everyone who privately warned me. That single sentence detonated every astronomer group chat. Privately warned her? Who? When? Was someone inside the company leaking details? Did someone know before the kiss cam? Did she mean employees? One junior dev posted in a Slack side chat. Guys, what if we're part of the warning system now? Cue immediate paranoia. Internally, leadership held their breath. This wasn't just a spouse venting. Lindsay had a following. Charity boards, tech wives circles, even a niche fan base from her minimalism blog in 2019. People listened to her. And now, she was speaking. Historians still argue whether Lindsay's post was spontaneous or calculated. Some say it was her reclaiming the narrative. Others believe it was the quiet prelude to divorce paperwork being quietly slid across some lawyer's desk. Either way, it confirmed what everyone feared. The Byron marriage was broken. And unlike Andy's leadership post, this message had clarity. Not a word about him by name. Not a single angry sentence. Just distance, class, and a kind of emotional gravity that no amount of tech speak or LinkedIn leadership quotes could match. The next morning, her profile bio changed. 2 simple words. Reclaiming quiet. That was it. And honestly, it said everything. Andy's first real public appearance after the scandal wasn't some carefully staged press event or humble podcast sit-down. Nope. It was a tech conference in Austin, the kind with neon badges, awkward networking corners, and enough coffee to power a small city. He was booked months in advance as the keynote speaker. The topic? Descaling leadership in a changing world. Oh, the irony. From the second he stepped on stage, the tension was thick. Andy looked different. Still in his usual jeans and blazer combo, but disheveled. Hair slightly overgelled, shirt buttoned wrong at the collar, one too low. No wedding ring, no assistant nearby, just a man walking into a room that knew everything. Historians still argue whether Andy was forced to speak or insisted on going through with it to show strength. Either way, it was not a good call. He started okay, thanked the crowd, smiled awkwardly, then launched into his slide deck, which, unfortunately, was titled Trust, Transparency, and Team Alignment. You could feel the audience try not to laugh. Somewhere in the back, someone coughed the word kiss. Another guy actually snorted. Andy pressed on. He quoted leadership gurus, talked about weathering storms and the cost of being misunderstood. But he stumbled over words, paused too long between slides, called his own chart unreadable. At one point, his mic shorted out. He tapped it 3 times and muttered, "Even the tech's betraying me now." Nervous chuckles, 0 applause. Then came the Q&A. Big mistake. The second question, asked by a bold young founder in a denim jacket, was, "How do you rebuild internal trust when you're part of the breach?" Andy froze. He gave a half smile, cleared his throat, then rambled about self-awareness, shifting culture, and using mistakes as mirrors. But by the time he finished, the room had gone ice cold. He wrapped up quickly, mumbled a thank you, and left the stage without shaking hands. Backstage, a staffer offered him water. He waved it off, pulled out his phone, walked into a hallway alone. 20 minutes later, someone posted a blurry photo to Twitter, Andy standing near the exit, head down, clearly typing. Caption, "Man fumbled his speech in his marriage. Rough week." It went viral in under 2 hours. Even worse? Someone recorded his stammer-filled answer to the trust question and clipped it with a freeze frame of his face mid-blink. They added text that read, "When your KPI is don't kiss HR and you still miss." By evening, the conference hashtags were trending, but not for the reasons the organizers hoped. And just like that, Andy's leadership comeback turned into yet another meme. Just as Andy's conference flop was making the rounds, a new voice entered the chaos. Kristin Cabot's friends. Or at least, people claiming to be her friends. Because nothing heats up a scandal quite like an anonymous source close to the subject. It started with a blind item on a popular gossip podcast. The host, known for mixing PRT with oat milk lattes, teased a segment titled, Omidi, the HR queen and the soft boy CEO, What Really Happened? They described a high-powered HR executive at a data company who had been emotionally involved with her CEO for nearly a year, and who never expected the relationship to be revealed in a stadium. The host laughed. Let's just say she didn't know about the kiss cam, but she knew she was being watched. Listeners immediately filled in the blanks. 2 days later, a woman who once worked at a startup with Kristin tweeted, "She's brilliant, strategic, and she doesn't mess up by accident. That kiss? Not a mistake. That was a power move that blew up too early." 3,000 retweets, instantly picked up by blogs. Then came the real bombshell, an interview in an indie magazine with a close friend of Kristin Cabot. No name, just wine quotes and veiled jabs. Highlights included, Kristin doesn't do flings, she does calculated chaos. He wasn't the only one chasing something, she was too, but not the same thing. They weren't just sleeping together, they were planning something. Wait, planning? Historians still argue whether that quote referred to an attempted power shift, a startup escape plan, or just a new HR system rollout. Either way, people grabbed onto it like it was gospel. The internet loved the idea. Kristin wasn't a passive participant. She was orchestrating something, maybe even using Andy for it. And the kiss? That was the fuse. One TikTok creator stitched a slideshow titled, Was Kristin sabotaging Astronomer from the inside? The evidence? Her sudden rise in internal strategy roles, her proximity to board presentations, her rumored connection to a rival data firm, and the final slide, Kristin, in black and white, smirking mid-conference panel. The caption, the woman knew exactly what she was doing, but not all takes were spicy. Some painted her as a victim of power imbalance. After all, Andy was still CEO. Kristin had vanished, her voice still missing. Her story, told only through second-hand quotes and slow-burn gossip. In fact, Kristin herself said nothing. Not a single post, not even a change in profile photo. But her friends? Oh, they were pouring glasses of Pinot and lighting up group chats. And every time one spoke, the image of Kristin Cabot shifted. From rule enforcer, to strategist, to seductress, to survivor, depending on who you believed. Every company retreat has that moment. A bonding exercise gone wrong, a trust fall that breaks someone's wrist, or an exec who says something wildly off script. But for Astronomer, this year's retreat became a full-blown disaster movie. With catered hummus. The setting, a serene lake house in upstate New York. The vibe, forced serenity, awkward silences, and the low hum of unresolved scandal following everyone like a mosquito. Originally, this was supposed to be a reset, a long-planned offsite with team-building activities, wellness workshops, and one keynote called Healing Through Culture. Yes, really. But with the kiss cam still echoing through every Slack thread, morale low, and the boards circling like hawks over stale granola, the entire event felt more like a tension bomb waiting to detonate. And it didn't take long. The trouble began when Andy showed up, unannounced. Word was, he wasn't supposed to attend. His name wasn't on the guest list and no one had seen him in days. But there he was, pulling up in a black rental SUV, backpack slung over one shoulder, wearing aviators and the hoodie. Yes, that hoodie. The one from the kiss cam. You could feel the mood shift. Conversation stopped. People looked at their shoes. Someone dropped a paper plate. Historians still argue whether Andy arrived on his own or was encouraged to make a show of leadership. Either way, his presence instantly poisoned the chill retreat vibes. That afternoon, during a group breakout session about company alignment, one brave soul asked what everyone was thinking. So are we addressing what's going on? Or are we pretending this is summer camp? No one answered, not even Andy. Things spiraled from there. The kayak activity was canceled when two team leads started passive-aggressively splashing each other during an icebreaker called Paddle Toward Your Truth. That night's s'mores circle got tense when someone joked, "At least HR's not here to police our marshmallow to gram ratios." It got quiet. Too quiet. Someone tried to play a calming acoustic playlist on the Bluetooth speaker. It accidentally shuffled to Careless Whisper. No one laughed. And the final straw? A group photo session. The photographer asked everyone to scooch closer together. No one moved. Andy stood near the back, hands in pockets, trying to smile. One engineer muttered, "I'm not getting photobombed by betrayal in a hoodie." Half the group walked away. By morning, people were packing up early. The planned open feeling circle never happened. The wellness consultant was seen speed walking to her rental car. Someone carved "Kiss Cam ruined everything" into a tree. And when it was over, the only thing truly aligned? The group's shared decision to never speak of it again. After the retreat that must not be named, Andy tried something bold, or desperate, or maybe both. He attempted a full-blown rebrand. It started small. New profile picture on LinkedIn. Gone was the buttoned-up headshot. In its place, a moody black and white photo of him in a hoodie, gazing into the distance like he was thinking deeply about data ethics, or maybe smoothies. The new bio? Builder, listener, forever learning. Classic comeback energy. Next came the podcast. Yep, Andy launched a podcast. Title? Quiet Leadership. The description promised honest conversations about navigating mistakes, building trust, and staying human in high-pressure roles. No mention of kissing HR in public, of course, but the implication was baked in. Episode 1 was just him, no guest, just 22 minutes of slow, reflective monologue, awkwardly edited and underscored by soft lo-fi music. At one point he said, "Sometimes leaders fall short. The question isn't, did you mess up? It's, what do you do after?" Cool line. But again, no names, no accountability, just vague, yogi-adjacent mumbling about growth. Reviews were mixed. One listener commented, "This podcast is like if a tech bro tried to confess his sins through a TED Talk in a coffee shop bathroom." Another said, "I wanted leadership tips, got relationship damage control." Internally, employees were baffled. Most didn't listen. Some hate listened. One group created a drinking game. Take a shot every time he says intention, resilience, or pause. Historians still argue whether Andy's rebrand was sincere or PR theater. He started using words like mindful and humble pivot in meetings. He showed up to one all-hands call wearing a Henley instead of a button-down. He even referenced burnout twice in one sentence, as if to suggest, "Hey, I'm just tired like all of you." Then came the haircut. Gone were the carefully tousled locks. Now, cropped, blunt, new man energy. People noticed. Someone posted a side-by-side photo in Slack, captioned, "From CEO to CUO no." And to cap it all off, he began signing off emails with, "In gratitude, Andy. Not best, not thanks. In gratitude, cue the collective eye roll." Because while rebrands can work, this one felt like a glossy veneer over splintered trust, like a guy trying to spray Febreze on a dumpster fire. One exhausted product manager summed it up in a private message. He's not rebranding, he's hiding in plain sight with better fonts. But for Andy, it was the only card left to play. Image over answers, vibe over truth. And in the age of internet receipts, that's not leadership. That's just theater. The message came on a gray Wednesday morning. Short, no fluff, no farewell gifts, no donut party in the kitchen. Just a Slack notification in the Tamer People Ops channel from Kristin Cabot herself. "Oh, it's been real, wishing you all good things." That was it. No follow-up, no reply, no green dot ever again. Kristin had bar quit. The company froze. Slack reactions poured in like caffeine-fueled confetti. Even a loan from someone who probably meant well but read the room all wrong. People checked the org chart. Her name was already gone. Just a blank spot between head of legal and talent strategy lead. Her direct reports got automated emails about reassignment. Her office badge access revoked before lunch. Historians still argue whether Kristin left voluntarily or was nudged gently off the cliff by legal. But considering her abrupt digital mic drop, most leaned toward Sham's strategic exit, legal paperwork pending. One employee swore they saw a courier deliver a sealed envelope to the exec floor 2 days prior. Another claimed the finance team had received final processing instructions labeled confidential. And then someone leaked the kicker. Kristin declined an exit interview. Declined. The woman who built the company's offboarding protocol, the queen of clean transitions, the architect of compassionate closure, TM, just ghosted her own system. The audacity iconic. Theories swirled immediately. Was she protecting herself? Avoiding further fallout? Or just done playing office chess with people who couldn't remember the rules? Either way, the move was decisive. No final quote. No reflecting on the journey LinkedIn post. No new chapter selfie with an oat milk latte. Just out. Some said it was a power play, that Kristin was reclaiming the story by vanishing before it could be written for her. Others saw it as a white flag, that she knew the company would never see her the same, and she didn't care to fix it. But even in her absence, Kristin's presence lingered. Old meeting notes with her comments. Google Docs still tracked to her account. Archived policy videos where her voice gently outlined boundaries. Boundaries she may or may not have crossed. And then there was her mug, still in the break room cabinet. Matte black, lettered in white. I'd rather be enforcing policy. No one dared use it. No one dared throw it out. One intern eventually moved it to a high shelf and labeled it Cabot Artifact, because that's what she had become. Not a person, not a leader, not even a scandal. Just an artifact of everything that went wrong. When the board finally made its move, it was eerily quiet. No press release, no internal party line. Just a sudden shift in leadership listings on the company's investor portal. Andy Byron's name, gone, replaced by a placeholder. Interim CEO, TBA. The moment was so subtle, most employees found out how through LinkedIn. Someone posted a screenshot in Year General. Why does our site say interim CEO? Within minutes, Slack lit up like a forgotten birthday cake in a server room. Comments poured in. Did we just soft-fire our CEO? Is this what offboarding by ghosting looks like? Bro went from founder to 404. Historians still argue whether the exit was mutual or a graceful shove wrapped in NDAs. But what's clear is that the board had a plan. One they'd been quietly polishing while Andy rebranded himself into oblivion. A few hours later, a memo dropped. Classic board speak, cold, curated, legally moisturized. Effective immediately, Andy Byron will step down from his role as CEO to pursue new opportunities and focus on personal growth. We thank him for his contributions and leadership. Personal growth. Oof. The memo went on to praise his role in scaling the company, securing Series E funding, and nurturing a visionary culture. That last part drew eye rolls so intense the HR Slack channel nearly imploded, even without Kristin to moderate. Internally, the tone was mixed. Some cheered quietly. Some were just relieved to have clarity. Some felt weird watching a company erase a man whose face was literally on the wall near reception. And Andy? No farewell note, no video message, no swag box of branded regrets. He simply vanished. No longer CC'd, no longer pinged, no longer part of the login system. But not everyone forgot. A few diehard loyalists still wore their astronomer hoodies like vintage band tees. One product lead said, "He made mistakes, but he built this place." Another muttered, "He built this place, then set it on fire with a smooch." Some employees held a mock vigil in the break room. Candles, battery-powered HR safe. One hoodie folded like a flag, a printed meme of the kiss cam, framed in irony. Someone played Careless Whisper on loop until the office manager unplugged the speaker. But behind the sarcasm, there was a strange stillness. Not sadness, not celebration, just shift. Andy Byron had been the face of Astronomer since day one. Founder, visionary, CEO. Now? A cautionary tale whispered at conferences, a meme frozen in 4K, a leadership lesson buried between PowerPoint slides on workplace ethics. And as employees stared at the updated org chart, empty slot up top, gray silhouette where his photo used to be, it became clear. The scandal was over. But the cleanup had only just begun. Andy's final interview came not with a legacy media giant or tech magazine, but with a slick online startup blog called Founder Fog, the kind that normally does headlines like, "How I Built a Unicorn While Intermittent Fasting," and Fuartem. The zen of zero inbox. Not scandal stuff. So when Andy showed up in a quiet cafe, sat across from a fresh-out-of-grad school reporter, and agreed to go on record to clear the air, nobody knew what to expect. The interview dropped on a Tuesday morning. Title? Andy Byron on growth, regret, and what comes next. Clickbait gold. The first photo showed him sipping tea in a denim jacket, staring pensively at a mural. Not the hoodie, not the blazer, a third outfit. Symbolism. He started light, reminiscing about building Astronomer from a 3-person team in a WeWork with broken air conditioning. Then came the shift. I've made mistakes, and I know those mistakes have hurt people I care about. For the first time, he said the word mistakes. Plural. The interviewer asked about the moment. Andy stared at the table and replied, "It wasn't planned. It wasn't professional. It was human. Too human, maybe. Too human?" He added, "We crossed a line. I crossed a line. I thought I could manage the fallout. I couldn't. And I shouldn't have put anyone in that position, especially someone on my team." No mention of Kristin's name directly. No deep dive. But the implication was clear. He took responsibility. Sort of. Then came the emotional twist. "I lost my marriage, I lost my company, but I didn't lose the lessons. That's something." Historians still argue whether this was vulnerability or a rebrand attempt in a new format. His voice in the transcript sounded tired, not rehearsed, not smoothed over, just raw. The biggest moment? When asked what he'd tell his younger self, Andy paused and said, "Don't mistake being admired for being loved, and don't mistake being followed for being trusted." That line? That one went viral. Out of everything, it was the one thing people agreed sounded real. No buzzwords, just a single sentence that landed like a brick on a glass desk. The comments rolled in. "Okay, ouch. Still don't forgive him, but I felt that." This is the first time he didn't sound like an inspirational quote generator. And yet, some weren't buying it. One former employee posted, "Funny how people find honesty when they have nothing left to protect." The interview closed with Andy staring out the cafe window, talking vaguely about future projects, taking time to rebuild, and exploring quieter paths. No announcements, no comeback tease, just silence at the end of the transcript. No one clapped. No one canceled him. No one fully forgave him. But for the first time since the kiss cam lit up the world, Andy finally told the truth, or at least a version of it. After the flames died down and the dust settled, everyone wondered the same thing. And where are they now? Let's start with Andy, the man who once led boardrooms with confidence and called strategy meetings over kombucha flights. He vanished for a while, deleted Twitter, scrubbed Instagram, turned off comments on LinkedIn. Even the podcast, Quiet Leadership, went dark after episode 4, Resilience Without Recognition. But then, about 6 months later, a new company quietly launched. Pivot and Rise, Advisory for Ethical Leadership. Founder, Andrew B. Logo, a rising arrow. Tagline, "Because mistakes aren't the end, they're the inflection point." Eye rolls were universal. Still, people signed up. A few former execs from smaller startups, a wellness brand, even a burnt-out founder trying to build better this time. Historians still argue whether Andy learned from his collapse or just capitalized on the rebound arc. Meanwhile, Andy Byron, the ghosted wife turned graceful phoenix, thrived. She leaned into her growing platform, relaunched her old blog under a new name. Soft Exits, focused on resilience, boundaries, and rebuilding after betrayal. One standout post. "When the universe hands you proof," quietly trended for weeks. She started speaking at quiet luxury retreats and was rumored to be writing a book. One fan wrote, "She's like the Gwyneth of graceful breakups." Then there was Kristin. No public statement, no interview, just quiet. Her name disappeared from Astronomer's paperwork and never reappeared in tech circles until someone noticed a new hire at a global consulting firm in Europe. Different last name, different profile pic, same earring style, same education background. And under specialties, workplace ethics and discretion training. A few LinkedIn detectives whispered, "She's rebuilding, far from stadiums." Back at Astronomer, the company survived. Barely. An interim CEO became a full-time one. The hoodie culture was replaced with dress codes to support visual unity. They never won that tech culture award, but the team stabilized. New hires asked, "Wait, who's Andy?" And old ones replied, "Don't worry about it." The kiss cam footage, though, still alive. Memes faded, but every Halloween, someone dressed up in a navy hoodie and carried a cardboard cutout of a jumbotron. The costume never failed. Because in the age of viral everything, memory doesn't fade. It loops. It plays again. And somewhere, in some stadium crowd, someone will always whisper, "Remember when the CEO kissed HR?" And someone else will nod, grin, and say, "Oh yeah, that was wild." It started as a meme. Just a screen grab of the jumbotron, Andy and Kristin mid-laugh, mid-panic, mid-disaster. The text over it? Bold white font, slightly pixelated. HR be like, "Let's circle back to that kiss." It was funny, for about a week. Then came the remix versions. Pop art filters, glitter borders, deep-fried edits. People started printing the image on mugs, tote bags, even phone cases. A TikToker turned it into a dance challenge, lip-syncing to "Take a Chance on Me" while reenacting the awkward body lean. One guy got it tattooed on his thigh. Yes, really. The meme outlived the story. It evolved. Out of context, it was just two people caught off guard by a camera. But everyone who knew, well, they knew. It became shorthand for office drama, for secrets spilled in 4K, for the idea that no matter how high you climb, one wrong move can send everything crashing down, with confetti and crowd applause. Historians still argue whether this was the first time corporate ethics became meme culture. Probably not, but it was definitely the most public. And somehow years later it's still circulating, revived each Valentine's Day, each HR conference, each time another exec forgets that cameras exist. The image now hangs framed in the break room of a co-working space in Brooklyn. It's signed, not by Andy or Kristin, but by the artist who turned it into pop surrealism. The caption under the frame? This is why we have policies. People walk by it every day. Some laugh, some shake their heads, some just whisper, "Classic." And no matter how many companies rise, fall, restructure, or rebrand, that photo remains. Unchanging, immortal, the meme that outlived the scandal. The image that told 1,000 Slack messages. The frozen kiss that launched 1,000 resignations. Andy Byron may be gone. Kristin Cabot may have disappeared. But the Jumbotron? It remembers everything. So here we are. The lights are dim, and the story has closed. The crowd is gone, the screen is dark, and the popcorn is long cold. Just silence now. The kind that hangs after too much drama or after a laugh you shouldn't have enjoyed quite so much. You've heard it all. From the awkward kiss that no one was supposed to see, to the unraveling of titles, marriages, and carefully polished public lives. From silence to spectacle. From LinkedIn reflections to brunch photos that said too much. It's strange how fast things can change, how a single moment can send an entire company into orbit, and then into freefall. But in the end, beneath the memes and comment threads, it's all just human, messy, impulsive, sometimes sweet, sometimes selfish, human. Andy tried to explain it. Kristin never did. Lindsay found her voice, and the internet, it kept doing what it does best, watching, reacting, and saving receipts. Tonight, let the noise fade. Let the stadium lights dim in your mind. Picture the Jumbotron flickering off, leaving just a soft glow behind your eyes. The crowd's gone. The noise is gone. And you? You're still here, breathing, calm, tucked in, safe. No scandals, no Slack channels, no camera watching, just stillness. Thanks for joining me. Sleep easy.